Okay, now we are recording. So Tony, first question again is in general, or maybe what is one way that Luke 10 has helped you to either start or lead a house church that's healthy? What's something that has been helpful to you?
I think it's provided us a structure to do what we've wanted to do already, which was connect with each other and connect with God. But we didn't really know how to structure that in a way that was manageable, I guess, or free-flowing. It provided structure without control, and I think that was really appealing.
Good, perfect. Second question, how have the Luke 10 newsletters been helpful to you?
I think it's a sense I feel connected through reading them. I haven't had time to read all of them, although I've wanted to every time I've gotten them, but because of family demands and everything, I don't sit at the computer often. But just that feeling of I'm connected to something bigger than us.
Perfect. Third question, how has Church 101 been helpful to you and or others?
I think that for a lot of people that have gone through it that I know, everyone says, this isn't new information for me, but somehow it's organized differently in a way that makes sense. And so a lot of the concepts we teach, but again, we didn't have the structure for reproducing them, I think, and helping people reproduce themselves. So it's given, Church 101 has given us a form of reproducing ourselves with the values that we have and the practices that we have in a real natural way. And I think it helps other people to understand it better, what we're trying to communicate to them, and help them understand. And I think, too, it's just helped them grasp what the church can be. They might not be happy with what it currently is, but they don't really understand where they're going or what it could be. And I think that course helps them bring it into their family and their life personally so that they can live it deeper.
Good. Let's see, the next question. So I have a couple of questions here about different aspects of sort of the coordinator kinds of things. So what I'm saying, and this one is about community, and the question is, as a leader, how have you experienced community in Luke 10?
Like in the Luke 10 organization or in our small groups?
Within the Luke 10 organization.
Okay, have I experienced community? Well, I've done some of the leadership calls or the regional coordinator calls, and just getting to know the other regional coordinators has been, I guess, encouraging, again, that not alone piece, that I'm not alone in this, there are other people out there doing that as well. And it's been very real connection. It hasn't just been superficial, and that's beautiful to see that even though I've never met these people face to face, we can still have intimate connection that's supportive and loving and caring.
Say a little bit more about that. Given the fact that you've been in Uruguay, pretty far away, how has it been helpful to you to connect with people in places that are other than where you are in Uruguay?
Yeah, I think I can, again, I can see that we're not the only ones struggling with the issues that we're struggling with, even though we're in Uruguay. You could think, oh, this is just us. But when I'm connected with people in the States and people in Russia, or Australia, you can go, oh no, this is a global thing. And also just the encouragement that God's moving globally too. And so the fruit we're seeing isn't just in Uruguay, it's everywhere as well.
Great. The next one has to do with coaching. And again, we're thinking of coaching as kind of drawing out as opposed to pouring into people. So give a sentence or two definition. How would you describe what coaching is?
The word that comes to my mind is safe. It's a safe place, so no one's going to tell me what to do. My coach, which happens to be you, you don't tell me what to do. You don't invade our own personal development and because we take responsibility for our own growth, and so you're not even trying to take that responsibility. It's a coming alongside of, and asking gentle questions, curious questions that help me think about things that I might not have thought about on my own without that gentle question prodding. And somehow my soul feels safer to go there when there's someone else present. So it's like a witness. I feel like you witness what happens. You witness what Jesus is doing in our lives. You validate it. You help us name it. So a coach, I think that is a really good coach, someone who names and validates and creates safety and gently accompanies that person in their walk in a really beautiful way.
Well said. Beyond Church 101, what kind of training have you received from Luke 10? Things that you've learned, things that have been helpful, might have been through just our interactions, but we're trying to convey that Church 101 is a beginning place of training, but that there's more available for people beyond that.
Yeah, I went through the first draft or revision of the Leader 101 course, or the 4 weeks I think that we did, and it provided more than feeling like it trained me. I feel like it provided a platform to discuss questions and issues of church that we normally don't take the time to talk about, or we don't even have the group of people around us to talk about those things. So it was very helpful to talk about that, and the training that I see developing, I think, out of that is going to be very helpful for people who haven't been trained in leadership development or in church planting or in leading a small group even. I think it's going to be very helpful for them to feel supported enough to be able to do that.
Beautiful. Last one may not be relevant, but you see if anything comes to mind. The way I phrased it is, how has it been a benefit to you to contribute financially to Luke 10? And Jordan's comment was, it's encouraging for me to be able to invest in something that is really in people and in church planting. That's not, how do we keep the air conditioner on in the building? How do we carpet the narthex, that kind of stuff. Anything that you'd like to say along that line?
I think that I smiled when you asked the question, just because we want to give more. I mean, we see the value of the coaching and the value of the leadership development and training that we want to do as Luke 10, and just the possibility of a global movement. And I go, yeah, I want to get behind this, and I want to support this as much as we possibly can. So yeah, there's a longing to give more because of the value that the work is worth. And I think that's what I say. I go, wow, the people in Luke 10 are giving a huge value to the people around them, and that's not cheap. And if we were in a secular world, it would cost greatly to do the type of coaching that we're offering. So I see the value of the work, and I think, yeah, it's worth it. It's worth giving a lot more, personally. So.
Toni, fantastic. That's exactly what we're looking for. So thank you very much for that time. Is Matt at a place where he can come?
It is. I think he's right here. Hey, Matt, you ready? I think I heard a yeah, but I don't know if he was talking to me or someone on the phone. Okay. Hey! Are you talking to me?
Are you talking to me?
Here he comes. Great to see you.
Good to see you, Toni.
Have a great week. She left her toiletries. She did. Okay. There you go.
Asked her she had everything.
I would not look like you're outside if you can.
It's freezing. Am I thirsty? It's so cold.
You look like you're in Russia, honey.
I know.
Siberia, huh?
Dennis.
So, Matt, two things I told to Toni. One is, as I ask these questions, and we are being recorded right now, as I ask these questions, I'd like you to think about answers that you would give to somebody who's brand new to Luke 10, doesn't know anything about this. They just come to the website, and we're unpacking some of the different elements of Luke 10. So, and short answers. These are more like sound bites than kind of long explanation of things.
That's
the second thing.
Challenge for me, but I'm going to do my best.
Are my headphones in here? Do you see them?
I'll do you.
Okay.
All right.
The second thing is that Jordan tells me that aesthetically, it's better to be on 1/3 of the screen as opposed to the middle. There you go. You know about all that stuff, so that's exactly right. Okay, and again, Jordan will do cut and paste. So if you want to do something and you're not happy with the answer, we'll just do it. The first one is sort of a general question about Luke 10. So it's in general, how has Luke 10 been helpful to you, especially in the area of like leading a house church or planting house churches? What's one thing that really comes to mind in terms of how it's been helpful to you?
Yeah, I think that my interaction with the Luke 10 community, part of it has been you have a sense that there's a wealth of support in terms of, or a wealth of experiences of other people that have been doing this as well. And so I can look through the website and I can find articles on almost any topic related to this. I can find stories. And so for one of the things and say I'm living a non-traditional experience of church, is I feel not alone. So like that's one of the first things that stand out to me is this kind of community of support. I'm not off doing something crazy that's never been done before. I'm living church like a lot of people do and did in Bible times, and other people are doing this too.
Perfect. The next question has to do with the Luke 10 newsletter. So how has that newsletter been of help to you?
Right. When I get to the Luke 10 newsletter, it's one of the few emails that I think I actually stop, and read. It's, like there's a lot of emails that are like, I got to get back to this, and I got to go back and check it out. But when I see that pop in, I feel encouraged. Again, I feel not alone. I love reading the stories that are going on. At the moment when you're living out life, you're always living out life in one space, in one time, all throughout the world, and you're checking that newsletter and you get the sense like, wow, here's a specific story about the way someone came to know Christ or someone began a deeper walk with God, and it just, again, it ties me into the bigger cloud, so to speak, of brothers and sisters all over the world that are living this out together.
Outstanding. Next question has to do with Church 101.
Okay.
So how has has Church 101 been of help to you in your own life or in your ministry?
Right. As someone that's trying to practice a different way of being church, I think you constantly go back and forth between overly rigid and overly chaotic, or just rigid and chaotic. And what I like about, one, I would say Jesus' concept of shalom is it's not necessarily a middle, but it's a different way. It's an integrated way of being. So I've led groups that have been kind of all over the map, and it's kind of like any suggestion whatsoever of rhythm or structure or practice, the anarchists fly up and the rebels, and I want out and I don't want to do anything. And I've been in situations where people have said, hey, this is the only way that you can do it, and we've got to be like this. And whether it's a giant church or a small church, what I've loved about the absolute minimal rhythms of connecting with one another is it allows every single church meeting, whether it's 2 of us or 8 of us, to be different and unique. So it's this really ironic thing that there's 2 things we do every time we get together, but by doing those 2 things, we guarantee that no 2 meetings will be the same, which is ironic but very much true, because we check in with each other and we listen to the Lord, and our hearts and the Lord's heart together determine what's important for that time of being the body together. And the Church 101 gave space to practice that, gave language for that, gave great instruction, videos for that, and also it gave a real quick, fast, easy way to help other people begin to do this themselves. So that's, so I'm in love with that little class, and I've seen a lot of little classes.
So you said some great stuff there. See if you can boil that down into a summary statement about the Church 101 course. Can you do that?
No. I know, yes, I can. Yes, I can. The Church 101 course moves being the church out of the theoretical and into the practical in, I would say, the most fully orbed way possible with the least amount of structure possible, walking together with others.
Outstanding. That was great. Um, Next question has to do with community.
Yeah.
How Luke 10 has benefited you in terms of experiencing a sense of community, the leader hangouts or however. So talk about how you've benefited from community.
Right. Yeah. Well, I'm a guy that when I start something new, a lot of times in life, I get really excited about the concept, and I take it and I run with it, and I don't look back. And traditionally, I'm not a person who has felt this need of like, oh, I need to belong to a bunch of people. But traditionally, when you look at me, there's a lot of things where I run out of steam and I lose interest, or I come up against something that's tough and I get discouraged, and it kind of goes in my graveyard of cool things I tried once in my life. One of the things that being involved in the leadership community, it's not so much, I feel like, oh, I've got to go to that because there's no way I can live out church unless I do that. It's more like getting to go to grandma's house once every 2 weeks and meet with your other cousins and siblings and kinfolk and share stories. So it's something I'm drawn to, not something that feels like, I must start all over with that because I don't necessarily, there's good thoughts, but I think I can summarize this in a different way. Being a part of the leadership community has been really meaningful for me as I have been practicing church with my wife and with my family, and helping others learn how to practice church together. People often look at me and say, oh, it's just, church of two and that's it. And I go, no, a church of two is not it. Church of eight is not it. There's a dimension of outreach and being an apostle and being connected to a lot of other people who are doing this, and actually getting to know them and hearing their stories. And the leadership community groups have been places where, again, you go beyond just hearing stories and you meet real-life people. You become friends with those real-life people. And I think there's nothing that draws you together with other people like a sense of a shared mission. So being part of a leadership community has a sense of, okay, that's not just other people doing church. That's, that's Al and Mitzi, and that's John, and that's, these are people that I've known to become friends with, where we get to listen and hear each other's stories. And the way we do the leadership teams have a level of safety where it's not a bunch of people giving each other advice about stuff, but it's about people that recognize, wow, the Holy Spirit is present in that person, and if they listen to Him, the Holy Spirit is going to give some really great wisdom, and it becomes this place where we learn together to encourage people to listen to the Holy Spirit and discern together, and so you really feel like people are honoring and respecting you, and seeing you like God sees you. So,
good. Thank you.
That was maybe long and extended too.
Well,
so
we'll let Jordan figure that out.
Yeah. Sorry, Jordan.
Can you define coaching in just a few sentences? What is coaching?
Right. Coaching is the best way I can see coaching is, someone who knows what skill you're trying to learn. Coaching for me always works best when there's skills involved, and it's a person who has mastered that skill, and they are walking with you, emotionally, intellectually, and kinesthetically even, while you two are practicing a skill and giving you real-time feedback. Picture that's always worked for me and meant a lot for me is, when you're learning something or you're getting your training in running, they say sometimes you need a person with one hand on your back and one hand on your chest. You know, one hand on your back, just kind of keep you moving forward. One hand on your chest, just to keep your pace. So the coaching relationship is a lot like that to me.
Good. And then to continue on that for a little bit, how have you benefited from coaching in the context of Luke 10? How's that been helpful to you?
Yeah. Coaching within Luke 10 has been nice because, you know, the kind of most visible thing when you're on a learning pathway is like, oh, it's the Church of 101 course, and you're so excited about actually learning a new way to practice church with just one other person or 6 other people that in some ways that is the whole deal. Like, that is church. You're being church together. But as any of us are being church together, we come up against our own limitations. And we get a sense that Jesus is calling us. We have this inner longing to go past our own limitations, whether it's inner fears or it's issues that come out in a check-in. And I didn't know how to deal with that. A person started crying, and what do I do? Or even in my own inner life. And a coaching relationship within the context of Luke 10 has been like, it's almost like the other half of church. You know, in some sense it's church practice and then sort of church leadership. It's almost like one is not complete without the other. So as I'm on mission, I'm going to need resources and feedback. You know, if I'm not on mission, I don't need resources and feedback and help and aid. But as I am, you know, living the battle, living the journey even, you get into places where you can get a little bit like, I don't know if I turn right or I turn left here, and to have somebody that you can interact with on a every other week or every week basis as you are going continues to keep you resourced and equipped and hopeful about leading a house church community.
Good. So this next one is pretty similar. See if there's anything else you want to say about it. Okay. It has to do with the idea of training and resources beyond Church 101. The Church 101 is sort of the starting place.
Right.
What have you received from Luke 10, the relationships, materials, whatever, beyond that have been helpful in your ministry?
Right. Right. All right, give me a second to collect my thoughts so that when I begin speaking, I'll try to be coherent. So the question is, kind of beyond the Church 101 course and the kind of coaching, you know, what else have I received?
Training-wise, resource-wise,
right.
other things that have been helpful to you.
One of the other facets about Luke 10 as a community of learners and teachers, I would say, is you know, there's the basic things: living out a group, living out church, getting practical coaching questions with others about how do you do rhythms of church. But there is always there's a wealth of theological reflection as well as learning that is somewhat unscripted. It's real-time based, and it's always focused on developing the kingdom of God. And so, for instance, you know, a group of us looked at you know, a book about the one thing together. It was learning, and it was cool learning, but it was all learning within the context of living as church together. Another source of reflection has been, you know, these reflections around Walter Brueggemann's work with the Psalms. You know, learning about concepts of Psalms of disorientation and Psalms of orientation and reorientation, and how that relates to the inner life of a leader. And so, you know, that's the kind of stuff that people normally pay, you know, thousands and thousands of dollars to go to seminary or whatever to get that, but to be in a place where I can have some real-time, deep, hardcore theological reflection when I need it, you know, not because that's the course I was in, and I hope I remember I read that book sometime if I ever have a pastoral crisis in my community, but as I need it. That has been an over-the-top blessing in this.
Good. Last question, and you may or may not have something to say about this.
Sure.
It has to do with the benefit to you of contributing financially to Luke 10.
Yeah.
So, for instance, Jordan's comment was, I like being able to invest someplace where it's not just carpeting the narthex or
Right.
air conditioning on it. It feels like I'm investing in something that really matters.
Yeah.
How would anything you'd like to say about that?
Right. Yep. I don't know how long now, not a ton of time, but we've been financial investors and partners within LK10 and the LK10 community, and I get the PayPal invoice that says, "Hey, your contribution has gone through," and I almost always hear some kind of voice that say, "Man, we just pushed it forward." We just pushed it forward. Not LK10, the gospel. The access to the gospel. People have gotten deeper spiritually. People that my whole family, most of my family are not churchgoers, but they're interested in Jesus. So to be off halfway around the world and think that I've got family in Denver, Colorado, I've got family in Phoenix, and to think, wow, I'm investing in something that is pushing the kingdom out there to the most sort of granular level possible in every nook and cranny of the world that a large church doesn't get the chance to reach in and of itself. It is in some ways it's like getting to live next door to every single one of my non-Christian friends all across the world, thinking I get to reach all of them. I'm not strategically telling people to plant 10 communities in the shadow of all my friends, but now I'm thinking about it, it might not be a bad idea. So it's a blessing for us to partner in that way.